Okay, there you go. You're live. Go.
Welcome to Author Chat. My name is Anarece with Crossword Reviews, and tonight we're chatting with author Nancy Cavanaugh. And her title, When We Hit the Road. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
You're welcome. I really loved this book, and I think that you will too. If you have any questions, you can add them.
Sorry, I have my volume on my phone. There, you finish.
If you have any questions, you can add them to the live comments or tweet them to Instagram them. Just make sure to tag Crossword Reviews. So let's start the show with you telling us about your journey becoming an author and
numerous
books for kids.
Well, that's a really great question. You're doing an awesome job getting the show going, so thank you for that. But my journey to become an author, it's kind of funny that this book is a road trip book, but my journey to become an author took a really, really long time. I started writing stories and poems and all kinds of things like that, trying to get published. And before I had my very first book published, from the time that I really dreamed of being an author to the time that I had my first book published, was 18 years. That's a really long time, isn't it? So yeah, it took me a really long time, but I had a lot to learn as an author. I was a teacher at the time. I was teaching third grade. So
I'm in third grade.
You're in third grade right now? That's awesome. That's so cool. So yeah,
I'm graduating to fourth grade.
Yes. So you'll be in fourth grade next year? Yes? Yeah, that's great. So yes, I loved third grade. You probably loved third grade too, right? And I just was loving all the books that my kids were reading, my students, and I loved reading out loud to them. And I started to really fall in love with children's literature all over again. And that's when I started to have the dream of writing a children's book. And so I had a lot of things to learn about how to write a book and what that takes. Of course, when I first started out, I did not think it would take as long as it took, but I just kept at it and I learned new things all the way along the way. And it finally happened. So, and now I have 5 books, 5 middle grade books.
How did you
go ahead
with this story?
With this story, I have been thinking about writing about a girl and her grandma for a really long time. And it just took me a while to figure out what story that was going to be. I have a lot of really fond memories of time with my, let me figure this out here, of time spent with my grandparents, and especially both of my grandmas. And so I just thought that would be a really cool relationship to have as sort of the premise for the whole book. And I wanted to write something that would be kind of an adventure and fun and funny. So that's kind of how I just put all those ideas together and just kept working at it until I figured out what Samantha's story was going to be.
I really enjoyed the notes that Samantha wrote to herself. Why was this something that you added to the story?
Well, I really like reading in different formats. I think diary books and journal books and just any kind of book that's written in a different way than just the regular narrative of telling a story, I think is really interesting. And since I like to read that kind of book, I thought, why not try to write another book like that? My first 2 books were in really different formats. And so this letter format that I used with Samantha was kind of along the lines of just trying something new and trying to use a different format that I thought kids would really enjoy. Do you like to read books in different formats?
Yeah.
She really liked this one. Like, she finished it really quickly.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. This book has tons of artwork in it. Do you think kids will enjoy this story more because of it?
You know what? I do think kids will enjoy it more because of that. And I think they will especially enjoy it more because it's not my artwork, because I am not an artist at all. And you would not want to see my drawings and doodles in a book. So I'm really thankful that my publisher has such really talented, creative people that work behind the scenes, kind of just formatting the book and coming up with all kinds of creative ways to just add to the story. So I really think kids will like that a lot. I think it makes it more interesting, and I think it makes it a lot more fun for kids who maybe reading isn't their favorite thing. So they might pick it up and be interested in the artwork, and then they'll end up being interested in the story because of it. So it's actually one of my favorite parts of the book. I think they just did an amazing job.
I thought it was really cute. I know that Anarece was commenting on different things that was in it. And I do think that for people that are like reluctant readers, I think this format really helps them out a lot better because it doesn't feel like just a regular book, because it has all of the, the lines and everything else in it. So it seems like it might be a large book, but it doesn't feel like it's as long as what a regular book would be.
Yeah, and I think a lot of kids feel like, when they look at a page and it only has words on it, it just doesn't look that interesting to them. So, I just think it really does make it, appeal to just a wider range of kids.
Right.
Some
And it
people
feel like a
for
lot,
that.
like it's a lot more fun to
Yeah.
read. Do you agree? Did you like
Yeah.
it more? Yeah.
I really loved the title and the cover. How did this creation come about? And did you have any input on the on the
The
on
cover.
it or the title?
That's a really good question. And for me, it's kind of interesting because I actually have not thought of one single title for my books. All 5 of my books, their titles came from the editor, because the editor just seems to have really creative ideas after they've worked with the book and the story and the characters. They kind of just are able to kind of put it all together in a title that they think will really work for readers. And so I'm not very good at coming up with titles at all. So I'm really thankful that I've been fortunate enough to work with editors who are really, really creative and talented. So they've come up with the titles, and I've loved every single one of them. And then as for the artwork on the cover, the same thing. You would not want to see a cover that I drew or tried to create, because it wouldn't be very good. That's always one of the really exciting parts of the process, when my editor sends me sketches from the artists who are working on the covers. And usually they do want my feedback. So I get a chance to just let them know the things I like about it, and maybe things that, I wish they could change, or they might want to think about changing. But ultimately, I try to really leave it up to the art and design team, because I know they're really talented and do such a wonderful job. So I'm always excited to see what they come up with, and I usually just love it right from the very beginning. So
You did a great job.
they did do a great job, and they get different artists that work for the publisher, and they sometimes will come up with a couple different ideas of how they want the cover to be, and then they'll kind of try to narrow it down from there. And they play around with the colors and all that kind of stuff. But I love the color of this cover. It's one of my favorite colors.
It's very pretty and very eye-catching.
Yeah. Why did you decide to have this story about travel?
I think I thought about how much kids would like a book about traveling, and I think it was just something that kind of naturally came from the storyline that I was working with. So I am, you disappeared for a minute. I didn't
Yeah,
there, but I was worried.
he accidentally clicked out of it. He's like, whoopsie, don't do that.
I was looking at all the buttons thinking, which one do I click on to make her come back? Because I wanted you to come back. So yeah, a road trip book is always kind of fun because it just adds a layer of adventure right from the beginning. And I think it gives that suspense feel of, you don't know what's going to happen next. And I think we probably can all remember stories, or we can all remember times that we've been on a road trip that is almost like this story where crazy things start to happen and, you never know what's coming next.
Who was your favorite character to write about? Mine was Samantha.
Boy, that's a good question. I'm not sure anyone's ever really asked me about favorite characters. So that's a good question. That's going to make me think. One of the things that I think about with my characters is they almost become like real people to me. They're like my little imaginary friends. And so they become really real in my mind. So there's usually things I really like about each of my characters. And then there are things that I don't necessarily like about my characters sometimes. And I usually put into each character parts of myself, a little bit of myself, and then parts of just people I make up in my head, and then also kind of tidbits from real life as well. So I kind of really, I think out of all of the characters, I think I get a kick out of Mimi the most because she's just so cute and funny, So I like her a lot. But of course, your main character is always the one I think that you love the most. So.
What if you had to choose a character from all 5 books that you've written?
Oh, of all of the books, that would be, that's a toughie. It would probably be, oh boy, I don't know. See, that's like the question of what's your favorite book. That would kind of be like if you have more than one child saying who your favorite kid was. So I don't think I could do that. That would be hard.
Okay.
Now that this is book complete, what's next for you?
Well, I am thinking about maybe working on an easy reader series for even younger kids than middle grade, kids who are just learning to read. And that one would have a main character of a girl and a dog. And then it would be a series of a few little stories. So that's one thing that I'm working on. And then I have a couple other ideas for middle grade novels. And one in particular that I'm really excited about is I'm thinking about writing it in free verse right now. As I'm thinking about it in my head, it's in free verse. So I'm trying to work that one out. But that will also be sort of more of an adventure kind of story that kids just kind of having an adventure outside kind of a story. So still working that out.
For the early readers, what could she add to those?
Stickers.
I know there was a selection of little books that we had. I don't remember what company they were from, but every time they completed a book or a section that they would learn, like a phonics or whatever was in it, they would gain a sticker.
Ah, that's a good idea. I'll have to keep that in mind. I'll write that down in my notebook.
Do you think you will keep writing books for kids, or do you think you should go into young adult or adult titles?
Well, I always kind of joke around that I feel like I'm not cool enough to write YA, young adult, because it's like you have to be really cool, and I'm just not. So, and I don't read YA books very much, and I don't really read very many adult books. I've thought sometimes about writing an adult book, but I think it would be really hard to do, especially since most of the books, pretty much all the books I read are usually middle grade books. So I feel like I understand that genre really well, so I probably would have to really do my homework if I wanted to write in a different genre.
Are all of your books based like in real life or for contemporaries, or are any of them like fantasy or anything else? Or
I have done one historical fiction, and that is a historical fiction that takes place in the 1930s in the Okefenokee Swamp, which you guys, because you're from Florida, right? You live in
yeah,
Florida?
we're in Florida.
So you may have heard of the Okefenokee Swamp up in Georgia. And so that is the place where that story takes place. But otherwise, they're all realistic contemporary.
Do you think would ever do a fantasy?
Well, I always joke about that too, because I think that I'm not smart enough to write a fantasy book because I have a hard enough time just working with the real world. And if I had to like create the whole entire world, I don't think I could do that. I have to just work with what I've got here. It would be really hard. I think fantasy writers, that would be so hard to create characters and the whole world and the story and everything. I just, that would be hard.
Maybe magical realism might be more your style.
Yes, I actually have thought about, in fact, the one that is historical fiction, I thought about writing magic realism. So there are a couple magic realism books in that genre that I really have enjoyed and liked. So yeah, that's an interesting thought. I'll have to keep thinking about that.
What's been one of your favorite books to read this year?
Well, I'll tell you about a book I just finished, and this actually would be a book for a little bit older audience. It's called The Hired Girl, and it was historical fiction. It was about a girl who ran away from her farm home, and because her father was not very nice, and she had lost her mother, her mom had died, and she ended up running to a city and becoming the hired girl in a household where all the people were Jewish, and she was not Jewish, she was Catholic. And so it was all about what her life was like there, and just how different their culture was from hers. And there it is. It was wonderful. I thought it was really wonderful. I think it happened just around the turn of the century, like early 1900s. So that was really interesting. I liked that a lot. So
1911.
1911.
Actually. Okay. From the cover, I thought that was gonna be adult. It was young adult. Some of these covers are really like you think it's one thing, but then it's not being that.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what to expect on that one, and I actually just stumbled upon it because I was looking for. The libraries were closed because of the quarantine, so it was a 99-cent Nook book, and I thought, that looks good, and then I loved it, so that was nice to have that.
Notice in the back of your book it says that you do winters down here in Florida.
Yes, we used to, but we don't do that anymore because we were homeschooling my daughter for a while, and now she goes to full-time school. So now we're doing winters here. So in Chicago.
I bet that was a change. We've actually been to Chicago. A few years ago, we had gone to BEA and BookCon in Chicago.
Oh. And did you eat pizza, I hope? Did you eat some pizza while you were here?
I think we did. Did we? Do you remember? It's been
Chicago
a while.
Pizza?
I think we did eat pizza.
I think we did. Yeah.
So it was beside the man playing the trumpet for money.
Oh, okay.
So can you tell me what's one of the favorite books that you've read? What's another title that you've enjoyed recently?
The Dark Deep.
And what was that about?
It was about like a group of kids. I forgot what their name was, but they went on a boat into like a sea, and then they fell into this like tunnel thing, and there was like a lot of other tunnels that they went through, and they found stuff.
Cool. That sounds cool. So another kind of adventure story.
And there was like a monster in the middle of where they got sucked down.
And was it scary? Was it adventure or just scary too?
Scary adventure.
Oh, wow. Do you like scary books? Yeah.
I give her credit that she remembers that because it's been a good long time since she read that one.
I don't remember the whole thing.
Yeah, there's the cover to that one, guys.
Oh. Oh, I think I've seen that. I actually think I've seen that cover now that I see a picture of it. That's cool. Well, good. I'll have to check that one out.
You know the books are good when you find. I was finding her in her bed with her phone underneath the covers, still reading instead of going to sleep. It's like it's time for bed.
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Remember when I didn't want to go to bed for book 2?
Mm-hmm.
I was reading.
Yeah, because we were fortunate enough to get an EARC of book 2 of that, and she finished book 1. She's like, "I need book 2," and I'm like, "Well, we have it, but you have to go to bed." Like, no!
I stayed up until I had to go to bed.
Yeah.
Yes, that is when you know it's really good, right? Don't you love books like that? I always don't want books like that to end because I don't want to get to the end because I want to keep reading it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. That is all the questions that we have for you.
And you're just like, don't end the book.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate all your enthusiasm for my book. That's so awesome and exciting. You are an author's dream come true. You are just the kind of reader we all dream about.
What kind of dogs do you have?
I have a cockapoo. I'll get her for you. Hang on one second. Come here.
While she's getting the puppy, you guys can watch the next author chat. Will be on June 11th at, I just looked at the time and I completely forgot, at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the author of The Storm Crow.
Ooh.
We have 6 dogs.
6 dogs. So here's my dog.
Oh, wow. She sounds so much bigger.
Yes, she does, doesn't she? She's only 5 pounds, and that's as big as she's going to get. So
That sounds like my mom. She's got 4 little chihuahuas. And then we have my older daughter's dog, who is a wiener dog and chihuahua.
Her name's Lark.
Who's a fat puppy. And then we have my grandmother's service dog after she passed away. And he's a horse. He's an American bulldog. So we've got like these little bitty dogs and then this massive horse.
He's as old as me.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. She was so excited to get the signed copy in the mail the other day.
So what is your dog's name?
My dog's name is Ginger. This is Ginger.
Aww. Hey, Ginger. Ginger. She's looking at me. Who's calling me?
So thank you again for having me on. And again, thank you for all of your excitement and enthusiasm for my book. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, she already said that when the library finally opens back up, we're going to go see if they have the rest of your books.
Oh, great. That's great. Well, I hope you enjoy them.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on.
Okay, thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.